Most heartfelt greetings and salutations, ladies and gentlethems. I eagerly welcome you to Sturgeon's most premier station, Dusk Light Radio, hosted by yours truly, the exsanguinatingly excruciating, frightfully phantasmal, and indisputably iconoclastic Everett J. Blackwell. Perhaps you know of us Blackwells. We helped to run the first speakeasy for daydreaming back in the days when such a thing was outlawed by the narcoleptic government. We charged 2 secrets upon entry and a share of any heavy dreams to ensure safety, you see. But then the lucid dreamers and the insomniacs began to feud, and the whole thing became a mess. We even told them to sleep it off, but that just somehow made things worse. Ah, well, a man can dream, right? Sorry. Anyway, I'm Dusklight's main and most fabulous half-dead host. My job at this fine radio station is to bring you some of the most twisted, interesting, and downright bizarre tales that I and my wonderful many-legged runners collect from the far corners of Sturgeon and beyond. Some of them will make you laugh, some will make you cry, and some of you will try to go looking for the anglerfish. Listeners, this one may actually be a bit more on the nose than our usual fun and games in this section of the transcript. You see, something has followed me into the studio tonight. It's tall, hooded, and most definitely hiding right now, but I know it's there. It changes when I look away into a goddamn anglerfish. I heard that it can be satiated with long stories until it moves on to another destination or victim. So I'm gonna hold out hope that this one works, because it's one that's been on the docket for quite a while now. Oh boy. The tale, as you all expect, is The Spaces in Between, the very first series opening the doors to the world of Sturgeon, as told by Janitor Supremo and author T.J. Lee, who also lends his voice to this first part of the tale. Joining him is the wonderful, impeccable Spirit Voices, so please show her and her channel some love as well. This will be released in parts, and I sincerely hope that, come next week, we've managed to satiate the anglerfish. Or you may have a new host at this fine station. Oh dear. Also, if you love this adaptation of the tale, you can find the Spaces in Between book on Amazon, linked in the description below, to show your support for this author. Alternatively, sign up to our Patreon, whichever works. Special thanks must be given first to Mandy Mo for rendering yours truly in the beauteous image you see when you look at our page. And our music is provided with permission by Crowd Chamber, Envato Elements, the Nobody YouTube channel, and the Dark Somnium with gracious thanks. If you enjoy these intros and want to see more, please ensure you've got notifications on and leave a comment for every video you encounter. With that, the sun has set and dusk has crawled into the studio once more. Whether you're working, prepping to sleep, or evading the formless void that will one day consume us all, Blackwell is here to soothe your ears and captivate your soul. Now, close your eyes and take a deep breath. The scene has been set and the light is on. It's time to walk towards it. Sturgeon is, by all accounts, a strange place. If this is your first trip here, you're likely to stop in at the entertainment district, after checking in at your hotel, a place with endless floors and endless realities. The Hotel Inertia. Just, watch out for that concierge. We have museums of the town's unique history, our meteoric rise to becoming the #1 hub for oddities, anomalies, and creature sightings. We have the St. Martin's Higher Institute for Learning, a series of biodomes where cutting-edge nightmare research takes place. Some of the cryptozoology wing is even open to the public these days. We have casinos that allow you to gamble with things other than your hard-earned cash, childhood memories, lazy Sundays, lost loves, and so forth. Hell, for those of you so inclined, we even have an underground fighting circuit known as the NFC, where you can go to watch freak show fights of the highest order, or perhaps even participate yourself. I don't advise it though. But eventually you'll tire of the bright lights and overstimulating sounds. You'll stumble through a side alleyway where you can get some respite and consider your next move. Maybe somewhere unusual, somewhere a little different. And it's at that moment of choice that the doors to my fine establishment will open to you, likely being greeted upon entry by this fella, Cheddar. He's a sweetheart, isn't he? If you don't mind the drool, that is. Great for marketing, better company, and terrifying guard dog when he's not chewing on his blanket. We're a bar that doesn't sell your usual run-of-the-mill beverages, nor do we take currency. Instead, we will provide you with drinks you'll not find anywhere else on Earth, catered specifically to your needs. We have a wide selection of unusual beverages. I like to think of them as mood enhancers, or, depending on the patron's desire, dampeners. I've gotten together with some unrecognized genius brewery masters, working out deals to sell their phenomenal mixtures at a unique place. It brings in the customers by the droves to seek their poison of choice that they cannot find anywhere else, and the brewery gets exposure. Everyone wins. How do we know? Well, your payment, of course. It's a story, just like the one you're about to hear. My name is Sully Renshaw. Welcome to The Spaces in Between. What can I get you? Opening time. I've been running this fine establishment for about 9 years. My staff may be an overly drooly Bernese dog and a narcoleptic daydreamer, but I wouldn't have it any other way. They keep things light and entertaining. In a job like ours, that is absolutely necessary. Especially with where things kick off for us. Our story begins about 2 years ago. It was the early evening, and I was placing some missing posters around the windows to the bar at the behest of our local council. More and more people who wandered in here were not finding their way home safely, and there was very little I could do about it from behind the bar. I just finished putting up the last one when Krauss sauntered in, half asleep, smelling of cheap booze, and his neck covered in hickeys. Krauss was the definition of hedonism and style in his 20s. Kama pants, an oversized designer sweater, red and black painted fingernails with dark red circular sunglasses, and, as he removed his face mask, black lipstick topped off with an open-top trucker hat, his thick brown hair jutting out. Evening, Krauss? Eventful Friday? I smirked, pointing to the neck. He chuckled back and pushed up his glasses, slumping over the bar and groaning, holding up an unwashed glass and shaking it, indicating he needed a drink. Cheddar came bounding into the room as he heard Krauss's voice, the lumbering mass of orange, black, and white fur leaping into his arms and spraying him with slobber. He was so excited that he hadn't even taken his blanket out of his mouth, still chewing on it and eager to share it with his best friend. In fairness, most people were Cheddar's best friend. I swear most of our tips came from people just desperate to cuddle such a big ball of fluff and barks. Cheddar is one unusual dog, to say the least. One that understands the words attack, kill, stun, and defend, but not the word breakfast. We try to create a welcoming but chill atmosphere for the patrons that stumble through here every now and then, and to be honest, we have to. Because to say my clientele is unusual would be a gross understatement. The kind of folks we get here are looking for an escape. A place where they can talk their troubles away for a nominal fee and won't be judged. I guess that doesn't separate it from many other bars out there, does it? I acquiesced, going under the bar and rummaging around for an appropriate pick-me-up. I found it in a bottle of Peruvian beer called Mama Killa's Pulse Thumper. The contents designed to bring your mood and excitement up to such a level that you felt the world around you was virtually throbbing. For Krauss, this was a hangover cure. I popped the cap and watched the purple liquid rhythmically bounce as I poured it into the glass. You're supposed to nurse it so as not to perk up too quickly, but Harry Krauss doesn't really take anyone's advisement into consideration, not even his lovely boss. The mad son of a bitch necked it in one go and his entire body shook before he sat upright and clapped his hands together.
Got a weird one for you, Sully.
He was grinning from ear to ear. More gossip? No. Your elevator pitch has 2 minutes, Krauss, but if you propose another perma-boner drink, you'll be finding new employment. I raised an eyebrow, Cheddar still on his lap, looking everywhere but me as he knew full well I'd tell him to get down.
No, not a new drink. New rumor.
He pulled out his phone and swiped for a moment, before bringing up an image of some graffiti against a brick wall. The visage of a strange fish with sharp teeth jutting out of its gargantuan mouth.
You hear about the anglerfish artist?
I shook my head. Krauss, I mostly just run things here. Outside world ain't much interest with 30-something workaholic. What's the relevance to the bar? Krauss leaned in, eyes darting around even though we had no customers.
You know those missing people's cases? They say he or she is connected to him. That he's going after unusual types in Sturgeon.
Unusuals was a weird but apt description of some of Sturgeon's residents. A way to describe those who showed an aptitude for odd powers, quirks, or traits. Perhaps they could control their shadow, see into people's thoughts, or enhance their strength. But unless they had training or a natural skill, it would likely be very hard for them to hone in on it. For every mundane citizen we had, like myself, we had unusuals like Krauss, and it seemed like every year there were more of them. Hard to imagine them not standing out like moths to a flame each time a latent ability explodes when they least expect it. A few years ago, we had a young girl emerge from the wreckage of an orphanage, horrifically scarred, but able to control fire. She never spoke of what happened, but the obvious conclusion was her inability to focus. Perhaps the weight of that bearing down on her was her trigger. Who knows? So, how did you come by this information, Krauss? I looked him up and down, wondering where the catch was. He shot me a grin and, while gently resting Cheddar on the floor, put on his apron.
I interviewed a nice guy over at the Sturgeon Nexus. We got to talking, then to drinking, then... well, that's why I'm late.
He laughed and rubbed his neck. You interviewed him? Isn't he the journalist?
OF Province is special, Sully. He likes being the one receiving the questions.
We laughed and set about getting things ready. I knew the night was going to be a long one, but something in the back of my mind couldn't escape the feeling that I'd seen something I shouldn't have. Every now and then, when the bar grew quiet, I'd see it in the corner of my eye, just for a moment. An anglerfish. Business went on as usual that evening. Happy hour was in full swing and a lot of our regulars sat in their secluded booths. Our only customers who didn't buy our top shelf drinks and instead paid for usual liquor with money. We have to keep the lights on somehow, after all. Krauss went out on his lunch break and I was left to run things for the dead shift. These regulars were often unusuals looking to lie low, or what we called lifers. People who had given up their ability to make choices and instead decided the bar was the best stopgap for them until they could move on. We had no idea if they were living or dead, but they always paid for their drinks, so there was no problem. I remember the air growing thick, a fetid stench permeating through the bar and Cheddar running back behind my legs, cowering as the doors swung open. In walked the tallest person I'd ever seen, standing at over 8 feet and completely hidden behind a thick trench coat. Without any trepidation, they glided over to the bar and towered over the table, staring at our drink selection on the back. It was clear they desired something in particular. Welcome to the spaces in between, friend. My name's Sully, and the big fluffy thing is Cheddar. I take it you want something from our top shelf. Our entire beverage line was unique, bespoke, and not for the faint of heart. From drinks that could erase horrible memories to shots that will change your life in the most literal sense, we catered to most whims a client wanted in those moments of desperation and indecision. The figure kept its hood up tight over its head, a wooden mask hiding all discernible features as a bassy, smooth voice rang out. I will have whatever you recommend, barkeep. I come here with something for you too, after all. I stopped washing the glass in my hand, eyes perking up. Oh? And what might that be, Mr. I let it hang in the air as they shifted, as if debating on what they should share. Williams. Reverend Jonathan Lucian Williams. I apologize for the cloak and dagger affair, but... Their large, cinder-block hands gripped the mahogany wood, making an awful scratching sound. You never know where is safe these days. Sturgeon isn't what it used to be. So many eyes watching, always. But what I offer you is what you require in payment. A story. I smirked, grabbing some items and preparing a Sully special, customizing the crap out of a beverage I'd formulated as I learned more about this guy. Alright, let's hear it. Better be a good one. The rain outside picked up, and the lights flickered. A perfect backdrop for the inception of this beast of a man's tale. He, too, took it as a sign and cleared his throat while I busied myself with the ingredients. As far back in time as this town's history goes, there has always been a struggle. A desire for power, and a desire for freedom. You know of the yin and yang, I assume. Perhaps the battle of good and evil. A tale as old as time, but rarely ever so simple. Something that only knows to consume and control is acting within its nature, just as the opposite, trying to oppose it, is doing the same. Ugh. William shuddered. Something in the back of his trench coat moved, as if crawling up his spine. Sturgeon is the epicenter of this struggle between two forces, doing only what they think is right. We do not judge. We observe and archive. Such is my job as the Reverend. I was barely following his cryptically worded mess, but I nodded all the same and grabbed some Mantis Bay sea salt to mix in with the concoction. He continued. There's always been references to the nun and the monk, an ancient clash of philosophies. As a reverend of the Church of the Duskwalkers, it's my job to document those clashes as and when they appear. The last one was something to behold. Sounds it. What happened? I smell-checked the contents of a bottle left by Mikolash and Sons, a haunting memory elixir that, with its pungent stench, I could not tell was ripe or rotten. I poured it in all the same, watching the tar-like mixture bubble and froth as the Reverend cleared his throat. A prison. Some years ago now. That was where the great reemergence occurred. But while there have been rumblings, nothing yet has came about. Though I suspect something will happen soon. It always does. Like a fish to a lure, they are attracted to places of power. I couldn't tell if he was apprehensive or excited. Dipping my head underneath the bars, I caught sight of his feet in the gap at the bottom. Rather, the lack thereof. Nothing was holding this gargantuan man up, and I was overcome by a sense of foreboding while he continued, an excited intonation in his voice. My family is quite special, you know. Each of us is born with a tarot card that is said to not only represent our personalities, but our fates. My father, for example, was represented by the Hanged Man. He was beset by grief following the war and took his own life by hanging. I was represented by the Hierophant, a card showcasing an individual set between the pillars of obedience and disobedience, law and liberty, the keys to heaven at their feet. My role was always that of a teacher, so it made sense I'd eventually become a priest and guide others, doesn't it? Well, I suppose so, but I still don't understand where this story's going, Reverend. You're gonna have to get to the point if you want this elixir. A bad attempt at cutting the tension, but he chuckled behind the hooded mask, obliging as I pushed the frothy black paste in front of him. I just wanted to give you a history lesson, Sully, on the town you reside in and on the importance of a place like this. Because bad things will seek it out. It's simply a matter of time. They came for my family. They will come for yours. He took the glass into his hood and effortlessly necked back the concoction without showing his features. But for the briefest of moments, I saw something shimmer in the darkness. But with that message delivered, I must be off. Places to go, people to see. I take it the drink will have some kind of effect on me? I blinked, surprised he'd caught on, but didn't wish to lose my composure. Cheddar whined and attempted poorly to hide his lumbering frame behind my legs. Yeah, I was getting an odd vibe from you, so I gave you a little spin on a blend known as Walking Dream. When you leave here, you'll forget everything. Whatever threat you brought up will have the same issues finding us that you'll have if you try to come back. I stared daggers at him, feeling something malicious underneath his cloak as he stood up, his full height towering over me. Some good news and some bad news, Mr. Renshaw. While your unique mixture will not have the desired effect, I have no intention of leading those fireflies to your den. They'll find their own way. Such is the nature of the cycle. My job was simply to pass on the info, give you a little nudge. You take care now. There's someone out there who really loves you. As he walked to the door, I felt compelled to speak my mind, wondering if this would be the last chance I got. Hang on, you said was represented by the Hierophant. What does that mean? Surely you can't stop being represented by a card until you... My eyes widened and I could see my breath in front of me. Until I die. Yes, a slight slip of the tongue. I discarded an old identity and took a new one. You will not encounter it again, but someone you know most certainly will. Call this a preview, Sully. He turned, and as time slowed down, a chill ran down my spine. The lightning struck outside, and for a split second, something else stood in his place. Bipedal, scaly, bulging muscles, and the head of a fucking anglerfish. Jaws unhinged with jagged teeth, bulbous milky eyes jutting out, and a bright lure glowing green. We'll see the lights go out. Someday. The lightning rattled again, and he was gone. A feeling of nausea in my stomach as Krauss barged through the doors with a hickey and a huge grin.
Honey, I'm home! Whoa! You okay, boss?
I took a deep breath and sat down, Cheddar licking my hand. I'm not sure, but I think I just saw the anglerfish artist.
Holy shit, what did he say? Anything cool? Did you get his autograph? Maybe sell it as an NFT.
But Krauss's smile faded as he saw the fear and apprehension written across my face, as if I'd come into contact with the Grim Reaper himself. I sauntered off to the back for a lie down, throwing him the apron with a weariness in my voice. I think he just predicted the future. Oh dear. I think that helped, but I also have no idea what to do if the anglerfish gets bored or hungry. I can't even tell if it's sleeping. The dead-eyed stare and motionless behavior has me on edge like you wouldn't believe. Oh, I wish I had a drink from the spaces in between. Ooh, now that's an idea. Don't you worry, listeners. I'm just gotta prepare to tell the next part of the tale, okay? Wish me luck. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out some of our other transmissions. We're editing them regularly, and we'd love to have you as part of the Dusklight family by subscribing, hitting the bell of beverages, and leave a comment with stories you'd love for my many-legged runners to find. It's time to prostrate ourselves before our many wonderful Patreons. Our Sturgeonite faithfuls Haley Clark, Foe, PRDDL12, Sabrina Alexander, Jason Webb and Larry W. Purple Crayon Eaters Mary Peck, Square, Feeny Von Karma, and Max, who are now full of the Indigo Wrath and preparing for all-out war. Our janitors, Alex Nunez, Amy Shawn, Ethan Nelson, and Arkham Cookie, currently entering the maintenance tunnels to clear out the scourge of Dusklight, the armchair critic. Our nightmare detective, Adrian Rodriguez, who just joined the force and will now be concluding the case of the Rat King and his many, many teeth, and moving on to the strange case of the Stickbug Man. Our Void Walker, Evan Diaz, currently investigating the case of the missing computer dust. Spoiler, it was Endicott who stole it. And one of our very own Blackwell family members, Papa Kyle Blackwell, who, after recovering from his brawl with Payne Gunkerson, is now selling a thick, blood-like beverage he assures us is not blood. You hear that? Not blood. An old Blackwell family recipe we're not privy to, but not blood. Aw, we love you and fear you, Papa. We thank you humbly for your patronage and look to see you bright and early for Dusklight orientation. Purple crayons and existential dread will be provided. If you want to be a patron yourself, we have a link in the description below, and you'll get early access to our videos, exclusive Sturgeon-focused D&D, Monster of the Week content, and more. And, one last time, listeners, close your eyes and breathe with me. Remember, no matter how bad things are, how cruel people can be, and how heavy your shoulders may feel with the weight of the world bearing down on them, Dusklight will always be here to lift the load and provide you with some respite. Drink some water. Watch a video about platypuses. Eat something sweet and sleep on the cool side of the pillow with the windows open and the stars twinkling down on you. Start and end each day with kindness in your heart. You matter, you are loved, and every day is another chance. I'll see you again when the sun sets and dusk enters the station.